The construction worker came into my room while I was sleeping. I never expected anything unusual that summer. I was just staying at my aunt's house while she was away, house-sitting, keeping things in order while a renovation crew worked on the patio out back. One of the workers caught my eye early on. Tall, quiet, built like a statue, and always covered in sweat and dust. We barely spoke, just quick glances and polite nods. But there was something about him. The way he looked at me when he thought I wasn't paying attention. The way he lingered just a second longer than necessary near my window. I told myself I was imagining it. That guys like him don't look at guys like me. Until one night, I woke up, and he was standing in my doorway. What happened next changed everything I thought I knew about myself, and about him. Before we dive into this story, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. It started with a glance. He was standing in the backyard, shirt clinging to his chest, sweat running down his arms, holding a cement trowel like it was part of him. I'd never really paid attention to the workers before, but something about him pulled my eyes in like gravity. He looked older than me, maybe early 30s. Rough around the edges in the kind of way that made him magnetic. Tan skin, strong jawline, hands that looked like they'd been through everything. And then there were his eyes. Dark. Focused. But the moment they flicked up and caught mine through the window, something else sparked there. He didn't smile. He didn't look away, just held my gaze for a second too long, then went back to work like nothing happened. The first few days we didn't talk. He arrived early, usually with 2 other guys, but he stayed behind after they left, always finishing something. I'd come downstairs to get water or pretend I needed to check on the patio's progress, just for the excuse to see him again. The first time we spoke, it was barely a conversation. "You live here?" he asked, his voice rough, low. "Just watching the place for my aunt," I said. He nodded. "It's quiet inside." "Sometimes too quiet." He looked at me then, really looked. I felt it in my stomach, like he was trying to read past what I said, like he knew something. His name was Ray, and from that day on, he started showing up just a little earlier, working a little later, standing a little closer. Once I opened the door for him and our fingers brushed. Just a second. But my whole body reacted like I'd been shocked. He didn't say anything, just looked at me with that unreadable stare and walked inside. I told myself I was imagining things, that I was just lonely, that it was nothing. But I couldn't stop thinking about him. One night I stayed up too late scrolling my phone. The house was dark, except for the light from my bedroom. I'd cracked the window open to let in the warm night air. I wasn't wearing much, just loose shorts and a tank top. I wasn't trying to be seen. But part of me wondered, what if he saw? I don't know what time I finally dozed off, but I woke up to a sound I couldn't place. Not loud, just movement. I blinked, eyes adjusting to the soft light coming in from the hallway. The door to my room was half open, and Ray was standing there. He wasn't in his work clothes, just a dark t-shirt and jeans, boots off, hands at his sides. He didn't look startled. He didn't say anything. My heart pounded so loud I could barely breathe. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice hoarse from sleep. He stepped inside, slowly. "You left the back door unlocked." I sat up slightly. Yeah, I forgot, but why did you come in?" He looked at me, then down at the floor, then back again. "You want me to leave?" he asked. I opened my mouth to answer, but I didn't know what I was about to say. He stepped closer, only a few feet away now. I could smell the faint scent of sweat, sawdust, and something deeper, masculine, real. He reached up, almost like he was about to touch my shoulder. then stopped. "I can go," he said again, softer this time. "If this isn't what you want." And that was the moment I realized something terrifying. I did want it. I wanted him. But before I could speak, we both turned at the same time. Headlights swept through the front window, lighting the room like a spotlight. A car pulling into the driveway. Someone else was home. Ray looked at me, frozen. Then, in one swift movement, he turned, crossed the room, and disappeared out the window without another word. I sat there, heart still racing, wondering if I'd imagined the whole thing. But on the windowsill, he'd left his work gloves behind. I woke up the next morning half convinced it had all been a dream. The room looked exactly the same. The window was shut. The house was quiet again, almost too quiet. But when I sat up, there they were. His gloves, sitting exactly where he'd left them. Thick, worn, a little dusty, real. So I hadn't imagined it. He really had stood in my room while I slept. He really had crossed that invisible line we'd both been dancing around for days, and I hadn't stopped him. I picked up the gloves and turned them over in my hands, still warm from the sun that filtered through the window. Part of me wanted to call him out, text the number I had from the contractor sheet on the fridge, demand an explanation. But a bigger part of me? I wanted him to come back. And he did. Later that afternoon, I heard the familiar knock of boots on the deck outside. I peeked through the blinds. Ray was alone today. No crew, no truck. Just him. He was wearing a clean t-shirt, dark jeans, and his hair was damp like he'd just showered. But what caught me off guard was the way he looked at the door. Not like a worker waiting to be let in, but like a man standing in front of a decision. I opened it before he could knock. "You forgot these," I said, holding out the gloves. He didn't take them. "I know," he said, his voice lower than usual. I stepped aside to let him in, and he paused for just a second before crossing the threshold. It felt different this time, like we both knew we were walking into something we wouldn't be able to undo. He stopped in the hallway, turning to me. "About last night. You scared the hell out of me," I said, not angry, just honest. He nodded. "I shouldn't have come in like that. Why did you?" He looked down at his boots, then back up at me. "Because I couldn't stop thinking about you." I froze. The words hit harder than they should have. Maybe because I'd been replaying that night all day, wondering if I was crazy, if I'd misread everything. "I thought I was imagining it," I said. "The way you looked at me, the way you stayed late." "You weren't," he said. There was something in his voice. Not guilt, not shame, just raw truth. I leaned against the wall, suddenly aware of how close we were. "You always sneak into people's bedrooms, or just mine?" That made him smile, a small, careful curve of his mouth. "Just yours." He took a step closer, slow, deliberate. My throat tightened. "What are you doing?" "Something I should have done before I ever walked into that room." He reached out and touched my hand. Not rushed, not demanding. Just a soft press of skin to skin, as if asking permission without words. And I let him. He took the gloves from me and dropped them on the table behind him, never breaking eye contact. "I don't do this," he said. "I've never—" "You don't have to explain." But I wanted him to, because I didn't know what we were doing, what this meant, and I was scared that if we went further, it would all disappear in the morning. He leaned in, not kissing, not yet, just brushing his forehead gently against mine. "I'm not here to play games," he whispered. "I don't know what this is yet, but I don't want it to be nothing." I closed my eyes, but before anything else could happen, my phone buzzed on the counter behind us, loud, sharp, breaking the moment like glass shattering on tile. I pulled back, heart pounding. It was a message from my aunt. "Be home by tonight. Caught an early flight. Hope everything's okay." I stared at the screen, the blood draining from my face. Ray read it over my shoulder. "You're leaving?" he asked quietly. "No, she is." His expression shifted. "So this is our last day?" he said. But it wasn't a question. I looked at him, everything spinning. "I don't know what happens after this." Ray picked up his gloves slowly. "Then maybe we don't waste what's left." Time moved differently that day. Every second felt heavier, like it was soaked in something I couldn't name. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the living room floor, and Ray stood there, still holding his gloves, as if unsure whether to stay or disappear. I watched him, his chest rising and falling beneath that faded black t-shirt, his fingers flexing around the gloves, his eyes locked on mine, waiting. "You don't have to go," I said. He didn't answer. He just looked at me a little longer before tossing the gloves onto the counter and stepping forward, closing the space between us like he was done hesitating. Neither of us said a word. He reached out slowly, brushing his thumb across my jaw, and I swear my entire body went still. My heart felt too loud, too obvious. His touch wasn't rough, even though everything about him, his hands, his work, his world, said it should be. I leaned into it without thinking. Then his lips met mine. No warning, no pretense, just heat. It was the kind of kiss that tells you everything he couldn't say with words. His mouth was warm, insistent, and honest, like he'd been carrying the weight of that moment for too long and had finally decided to set it down. I didn't pull away. I didn't want to. His hands slipped to my waist, and mine found his chest, feeling the tension there, the quiet shake of restraint. It wasn't just physical. It was everything we'd been holding back, crashing into one moment that neither of us could stop. We moved to the couch without breaking apart. His mouth never left mine for more than a breath. His hands were confident, but careful, testing boundaries, listening for every reaction in my breath, my pulse, my silence. I looked at him as he hovered above me. "Are you sure?" His answer was a whispered, "Yeah," followed by another kiss that left no room for doubt. I let go. For once, I stopped questioning, stopped overthinking, stopped worrying what it meant or what came next. I just felt him, solid, real, grounding me in the moment. Until... bang. A loud knock at the front door. We both froze. Another knock. This one sharper, more impatient. I scrambled upright, adjusting my shirt, heart racing. Ray stood, tense, eyes darting toward the window. "Is that her?" he asked. "No," I said, peeking through the blinds. "That's not her car." The third knock was louder, then a voice. "Delivery for Olivia Becker. Hello?" Ray relaxed slightly, but only just. "It's just a package," I said, exhaling hard. "Probably from some online order she forgot about." I opened the door halfway, signed for the box, and closed it just as fast, locking the handle. When I turned back around, Ray was standing in the hallway, suddenly distant, like someone who'd realized just how close they were to the edge. "You okay?" I asked. He nodded, but I didn't believe it. "That freaked me out," he admitted. "I know." He ran a hand through his hair. "I don't do this kind of thing. I'm not good at it." I stepped closer. "You were good at it just now." That made him smile. Barely. But something in the mood had shifted. The intimacy had cracked, just enough to let doubt seep in. Not because of the knock, but because we both remembered what this was. 2 different worlds crashing together in the middle of a house that didn't belong to either of us. "Maybe I should go," he said. I didn't stop him this time. He picked up his gloves again, walked to the back door, and paused. "I meant it," he said quietly. "What I said earlier, I don't want this to be nothing." "Then don't let it be," I said. He left without answering. That night, I couldn't sleep. I laid in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd just let the best thing that had ever touched me walk out without a fight. And then I heard the gate creak open. Footsteps across the deck. I sat up, heart pounding. The door didn't open. But something slipped under it, a folded piece of paper. I picked it up with shaking hands and unfolded it. "Meet me tomorrow, noon, where I showed you the old tiles. R." I pressed the paper to my chest, already knowing I'd be there. The note had felt like a lifeline. I kept reading it over and over until the ink practically burned into my skin. "Meet me tomorrow, noon, where I showed you the old tiles." That spot, the side of the house where the patio met the shed, had become something of a secret corner for us. Ray once took me there to show me where the stone was cracked and needed reinforcement. I barely remember the tiles. I only remember how close he stood that day, how his arm brushed mine on purpose. Or maybe not. But it changed how I looked at him. Now it was noon. The sun was brutal, the kind of heat that sticks to your skin. I walked slowly toward the side of the house, heart hammering, still unsure of what I was walking into, or what we had started. Ray was already there, leaning against the side wall, arms crossed, head down like he was fighting himself. When he saw me, he stood straight. "I didn't think you'd come," he said. "You asked me to." He nodded like he was relieved, but also carrying something heavy. "I need to tell you something," he said. That sentence alone was enough to make my chest tighten. "I haven't been completely honest," he continued. "Not because I wanted to lie, I just didn't know if I should say it." I stepped closer. "Say what?" He looked me in the eye. "I'm married." My world stopped. For a second, I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just stared at him, waiting for the part where he said he was joking. But his face stayed serious, solid. "You what?" He raised a hand. "It's not what it sounds like. I'm not with her anymore. We've been separated for almost a year, but not divorced, not legally. She moved to New Mexico. I stayed here. There's nothing between us anymore." I stepped back, shaking my head. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I didn't want to scare you off," he said. "And I didn't think this would even happen. I thought I could ignore it. But then I kept thinking about you. Every night. And last night, I couldn't help it." I ran a hand through my hair, trying to breathe. "You were in my room. You touched me. And you were still married." "I haven't touched anyone else in a year," he said. "Not even close. I'm not that guy." "But you didn't tell me the truth." "I'm telling you now." The silence between us was thick, full of things I didn't know how to say. "I don't want to be a secret," I finally said. "I've spent enough of my life hiding." He looked away, jaw clenched. "I know. I like you, Ray. A lot. But if you're going to stay stuck in a life you've already walked away from, then don't pull me in." He stepped toward me again. "I don't want to be stuck. I want something real. But I don't know how to do this the right way. You're the first person who's made me feel something real in a long time." I believed him. I hated that I did, because my heart was already halfway his, and I wasn't sure if I could stop it now. I looked up at him. "Then show me," I said. "Don't just talk about it." His expression softened. and for the first time I saw fear in his eyes. The kind of fear that only shows up when someone actually cares what happens next. He nodded once. Okay. Then he did something unexpected. He reached into his back pocket and pulled out a small black ring. A simple band. He stared at it for a moment, then dropped it into the dirt between us. I'm not going back, he said. That felt like a promise. I didn't say anything. I just reached out and took his hand. We stood there in silence, two men with too much history between them, and maybe just enough courage to try anyway. Then, from the other side of the fence, we heard a voice. A woman's voice. Ray? He let go of my hand like it burned. I turned toward the sound, heart sinking. There, standing by the contractor's truck, was a woman in sunglasses and a travel bag. Ray, she said again. We need to talk. She was striking, confident. The kind of woman who didn't just walk into a space. She owned it. Ray went pale the moment he saw her. She wasn't supposed to be here, he said under his breath. I didn't say anything. Just watched them step to the side of the house. Their conversation was short, maybe 5 minutes, but it felt like hours. When he came back, his eyes had changed. She wants to try again, he said quietly. But I told her I'm not going back. I wanted to believe him. God, I really did. But something about his distance. It was like watching him slip through my fingers, even while he was standing right in front of me. Does she know about me? I asked. He hesitated. No, not yet. And right there, even holding his hand, I had never felt more alone. The next day, he didn't come. No message, no knock, no sign. I sat by the back door for hours, just waiting for footsteps I knew too well by now. Nothing. By nightfall, I accepted what I didn't want to believe. He had left. Maybe for her. Maybe for himself. Maybe because this thing between us was never meant to last outside that house. But part of me still hoped. Days passed. The tools were gone. The gloves, too. Then, one morning, I opened the mailbox. And there it was. No note. Just his ring. The same one he dropped in the dirt. And somehow, it told me everything. He wasn't gone. Not really. He just needed time to choose. And deep down, I knew he'd come back when he was ready to stop hiding. I'd be here. Let me know if you'd like me to write a reflective final CTA for the video now, inviting the audience to engage emotionally and subscribe.